You're listening to Style as Identity.
Yes, we're your hosts. I'm Frankie Ikwuazom.
And I'm Lola Catero. So, is starting a brand on your vision board?
Or do you just love fashion and want us to talk nerdy to you?
Either way, we got you.
Join us as we get into aspects of the trade that you might not find online. We're uncovering truths from the founders and designers daring to build within their vision and values.
These brands, they're shifting our understanding of the style status quo. And the more time we spend with them, the more we expect from what we wear and the brands that sell them.
So, we're glad you're here.
Let's do this. We're live. Here we go. A testament to opulence and timeless elegance for your ensemble, artist Bhavya Ramesh and her namesake jewelry brand, Bhavya Ramesh, based in Mumbai, is where tradition meets futurism. With unconventional designs and a commitment to uplifting local artisans, results in original jewelry and eyewear. Bhavya, we are in awe of people like you, so rooted in upholding your values and culture, while simultaneously making pieces our world hasn't seen. I have not seen anything like this before. What a muse. What a powerhouse. Hi, Bhavya.
Hi, Lola. Very nice to meet you. I'm so glad you know of my work. I'm so glad that you think this way of my work. I'm very, very happy to be here. And hopefully, you get to know a lot more about me. So, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's so nice to have you, Bhavya. We've been looking forward to this for so long. And so I'm glad we're finally here. And your brand really transports wearers across time. Like Lola talked about tradition meeting futurism. And, we usually think about tradition as being more in the past, futurism in the future, but you're like still rooted in your values and culture. And you work with local artisans and create really unique pieces. So shopping on your website is honestly like an adventure. And for everyone listening, definitely check out the glare killers and the nail rings so that you can really get what we're talking about. But Bhavya, how do you retrace your roots? And what's most important for you to say about what you learn about where you're from? And what values do you think will always stay true to you and the brand?
I think when it comes to really retracing my roots, I do it by just deeply immersing myself in my craft, tradition, and the stories that come out of it. So, when it really comes down to making jewelry, I don't think anybody does it better than India does, only because I think through the ages and through years and years, jewelry has always been a central for celebration and expression for joy. If there is any moment where we have to celebrate, there's always jewelry involved. My sole purpose really emerged out of when I knew there are so many interesting techniques and interesting ways of expressing jewelry. Nothing was done to make it more palatable to the entire world. If I may say, Indian jewelry has its own reserved area of where you would wear it. It would just be on Indian attire. So I think the gap between Indian jewelry and just being able to make jewelry for the rest of the world using Indian jewelry techniques is what I'm here to do. And I feel like if there is anything that I want to stay true to from the get go, it was just authenticity and craftsmanship. My sole purpose towards the brand, and like even in terms of just designing the entire brand language, comes from there.
Honoring these values of culture while pushing the boundaries of fashion, like that's not easy. For example, your sterling silver sunglasses are both this commitment to opulence that Frankie and I are deeply aligned with, but they are also an item that love a little TLC, tender loving care, and almost require some upkeep to maintain their shine. You have guidelines around this to honor these items and to preserve them. It makes us wonder, we were chatting and want to know about that design process to achieve that balance of both pushing the status quo without going a step too far. And if you can get juicy, have you ever gone a step too far? And what was that like?
To answer that question, I think I've always gone a step too far. I always tone myself down, if anything, to make it more sellable as a product. If you like let me loose and let me do whatever I want, I think I would just be a costume designer because I like just going all out, right? But when it comes to designing products like sunglasses, my core interest really lies innovation. Product innovation is what I absolutely love. And as a true Indian, I do believe in precious metal. There have been so many points in my life where I've really thought, man, do I still need to stick to sterling silver? Why do I need to still do that? And I could do so many other things if I had just moved to, say, stainless steel, right? When it comes to sunglasses, it's way more easier to maintain and it's lighter when you do it with stainless steel. But the whole idea was I wanted it to feel like a piece of jewel. I want it to feel precious. I want you to feel like you need to take care of it. It's not some regular sunglasses. But at the same time, I do not want it to feel like a regular sunglass. I think the design says it all, right? Like the minute you wear something like that, everyone's just going to look at you and be like, whoa, what are you wearing? Where do you get that? Or, oh my God, how can you wear something like that? Right. So I think that is something that I truly enjoy doing. Even when it comes to my design language, I like the fact that people make space for me. They find an occasion to wear me. They're like, man, I think I could wear this here. I think it would be really cool if I could wear this there. So there is this part where you do push the boundary and you're like, okay, I don't know if I can sell this product because it's so experimental and I don't know if people will be very accepting of it. Also, it's a very crucial place to be as a business owner because when you release a collection, you really don't know how it's going to do. But I also feel like that's my brand. That's what people know me for.
Do you think that by going a step too far, you're saying that consumers make space for you, but then it in turn allows them to make space for themselves?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I just believe there is this sense of themselves where they don't regularly wear themselves. It's more like it's always there within themselves, but you got to get it out. And I think designers play a big part in doing so because when you wear really strong designers, right, it's not something that is usually you. But then once you're in it, you're like, oh, that could be me. Oh, I did not see that. It's also a moment of like self discovery, if I may say so. Like, I hope I do that to people, but that's what I aim to do.
That's really interesting. I also wonder if because oftentimes people style themselves pretty differently and express themselves differently. And when you and Lola were talking about making space, like, do you get feedback from people on how they pair it with other things? And even for you, when you're thinking about what else you're going to wear to complement your eyewear or your jewelry, like, what does that look like? Because oftentimes people usually start with the clothes first. And when I was looking on your website, I was like, oh my gosh, I would start with the eyewear first and then determine the rest of the outfit. So, yeah, in terms of making space too, there's also this element of almost thinking where our self expression with what we're wearing starts.
Right. I feel like I've discovered very different areas in which people have found space to wear my pieces. Honestly, I never thought I would even make it to the segment of Indian weddings.
Why is that? I'm curious.
Why is that? Only because Indian jewelry has always only been in that space. It has redundantly been in the space of weddings. If you see Indian attire of wearing a lehenga, that's where the Indian jewelry really comes alive. You literally have elephants carved on stones and whatnot. Like you will have really intricate pieces, but all of it is just something that can go on Indian attire. So I have always kind of moved away from that space, but also that's where all the money is. Honestly, that's what I've realized. But whatever, it was not even something that I have aimed for, but people have kind of found space for me there. People do go and gift the couple who are getting married like a pair for him and her. I mean, I've never envisioned these kind of things happen before the release of the collection, but it's just so fascinating. And also, obviously, the festivals. It's a wide genre of people who actually wear these glasses. Even old women who really just want prescription lenses in those glasses. Oh my God, that just gets me. I'm like, wow, man. Really, I feel so happy that you're able to like wear me like that. I love it. I think it's a wide spectrum. And honestly, I've just had a lot of fun. And I'm so overjoyed that I've gotten to see my jewelry go and like be a part of so many different places and so many different ideas also that I've gotten. So the jewelry is experimental and people love experimenting with it.
In terms of weddings being where the money is, has that shifted the pieces that you create or informed your collections at all to continue to provide items that are a little bit more commercial or that you know will be appetizing for consumers?
Honestly, I try really hard when it comes to keeping my brand identity as strong as possible and not diluting it only because as and when the brand grows bigger, right? You are feeding so many people as well as you also get more hungry because you do want to grow. And you're a self-funded brand. I'm speaking for myself. I do not have investors. I do want to grow myself for a large period of time and then probably get investors. So when that's the case, I always say this, right? There's a huge difference between an artist and a designer. An artist is a person who really like expresses themselves without really having to think beyond their art. But when it comes to designers, we are always in service to other people. If I'm an interior designer, I'm designing a space for someone to come and stay. So it has to be something that they like. If I'm designing clothes, I need someone wearing those clothes. And if I'm designing jewelry, I need someone wearing a piece of jewelry. At the end of the day, I have to find a way to meet my consumers midway, and that's the real role of a designer. Otherwise, I would just be an artist. But speaking of all of this, I feel like to a certain extent, I do accept people and I let people accept me. I think the last few collections I have been designing or made sure the kind of pieces that I'm putting out are a good mix of both. I would say a good 70% is just me, and 30% is where I am making sure that, okay, I do have pieces that do sell, and I know people will be accepting of this. So I think it's very important as designers to make sure that you have a great mix of both.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the difference between an artist and designer because I'm myself starting to identify more as an artist. I think a lot of us are, even if we're not an artist in title. And I think that a big battle within artistry is expressing yourself without thinking about how other people are going to receive it. I think that's a constant battle. I think even though artists express themselves, they still have that internal dialogue of how are people going to see this? Are they going to get it? But the designer also has the added pressure of this needs to sell. And so both kind of share a mind space, but depending on what the factors are and how much they're relying on what happens after they share it, you're right, it does change like the relationship with the work. I like that distinction. So we want to talk about your product categories because the names like ancient aliens, poison, and we're talking about like as a designer, you have to think about how these things are going to sell, right? And so we're seeing that you've also thought a lot about how you introduce them. And so, yeah, what are these names based on and how do you want people who buy and wear you to interact with them?
I feel like when it really comes down to putting out collections, right? If you really see the first time I put out any kind of work, I was pretty all over the place. I did not believe in collections. I did not believe in pieces coming together and having that cohesiveness between design elements forming a collection at all. So I struggled a lot with it in the very beginning. So it was just very random. And then it hit me the interesting idea of concepts, how concepts come along. And it can be a small idea that just sparks, and straight from the pieces being made to how they've been named, how they've been described, how they've been shot, everything spans from one particular thought. Say Ancient Aliens is the most recent collection. Honestly, super interesting thought of just imagine if the divine is an extraterrestrial, right? Like in Indian mythology, if you really see, you'll really see all the gods and goddesses had different skin colors and they all had superpowers. And there was this theory that mentioned what if these guys were just extraterrestrials who had just spent their time on Earth, and because they had these supernatural powers, we consider them gods. And it's so fascinating. I was just like, man, that is so fascinating. It could be so true, right? Like, what if there was an era where all of these guys had just come down and they had spent their time on Earth? And that's the stories that we actually listen to, saying that, man, they were flying chariots in the sky. And who knows if these were gods or just people from the outside, somewhere in the universe, and they just spent their time and then went away. So, very, very interesting thought. So I was just like, ancient and aliens, although it brought me back to the history. There was this show on History Channel called Ancient Aliens. Although it was very much, the name was the same as that. I was battling the name only because of that, but I felt like the title couldn't be more apt. So I stuck with it. And Poison was a heartbreak collection for me. You'll see all kinds of witches and nails. Literally, I tell all the women when they come to the store, I'm like, man, this is just there so that you can go at your man and like kill them. That's what it is.
It's insurance.
So it's just that. I feel like sometimes it's a strange thought that occurs to you that you want to communicate to the world, and sometimes it's an emotion that you want to let out. So this is my only medium, and I think anything that fascinates me, anything that I want to get off my chest, I just do it with this.
Man, talking about ancient aliens is right up Frankie's whole mind space. And what's your take, Frankie? You're my like de facto alien. I want to know what's on your mind. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, no, I'm obsessed. When you were talking, Bhavya, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the realest thing I've ever heard. And I also was like, can they come again? Like, I wanna meet them.
I know, man. Can I be them? Like, really?
Frankie, you are the 3-body problem person that's like signaling back to the aliens.
I hope they're listening.
Well, I love hearing about how you went from kind of rejecting collections to then being anchored in concepts that you personally relate to and are fascinated by. And I'm wondering, initially when you got started and you rejected this notion of a collection, do you think that was a sign of maturity that only after you went through not creating a cohesive collection that you then went back and said, oh, it's stronger when I do have this anchoring concept?
Yes. See, when it comes to design process, I do not have a fixed design process at all. I've never been to a design school. I've never had any sort of design background whatsoever. I have studied engineering, and I've always tell that my pieces are well engineered. And that's why everything is very movement oriented, or everything is a little more technical. Even the headgears, just the way they sit on your head, is very technical. So I like playing around with pieces. And everything that I do does not have a fixed process. I can never come and tell you, oh, this is the process that I follow to really execute my designs, because every single time it's different. I create my own process, and I think the creation in itself demands the process that I'm creating at that point. So, just like how I said, I do not believe in collections. And yeah, definitely you can call that maturity, where I'm like, okay, I think I learned the importance of concept and then started doing collections. It's a gradual process. And I think the brand in itself is a very organic way for me to kind of discover my interests and what I want to do. When I go with it, I think it reflects on the brand and how I deal with it.
Bringing this into the physical world a bit, I guess we have to. You have this retail location in Mumbai, and wish I could see it in person, but online I'm seeing these visuals. It's this captivating synthesis of Indian cultural motifs and modernity. The facade of your store, it's this sculpted serpent with an open mouth, and we walk through it as we enter. For everyone listening, we'll be posting images of this on our Instagram at the Majority Group. You could also Google it, but it is a sick entrance. And currently in the US, keeping retail stores open, let alone committing to like a whole architecture and design, can be financially risky. Is it the same for you in Mumbai? When did you open this location, and why was it important to allocate resources to ensuring its deliverance in grandeur?
So, opening a retail space was probably the riskiest thing I've ever done in my life. I am not from Bombay. I mean, Mumbai is also called Bombay, just for context. I'm not from Bombay, and Bombay is one of the most expensive cities in India. It is the most expensive city in India. And I opened my store last year. It's been exactly 1 year since we opened the store. One of the things about the retail spaces was my pieces really demanded a retail space because my pieces are super experimental. And no matter what you do online, people do want to touch and feel the product. They want to see how it looks because it's so different that even when the sunglasses were out, right? People were like, man, do you have a store? Or do you stock at any stores? Because I just want to see how it looks in person. Internet can just be too good to be true all the time. So you never know how it is in reality. So my pieces really demanded it. If anything, I had to change my brand identity if not for the store. When I say that, I mean I might have to cater more towards a segment which is more used to seeing generic jewelry, which I did not want to at all. I was just like, I want to stick to what I'm doing and how I want to go about it. So for that, it really demanded a store. And when it comes to the store, it's like I said, riskiest thing that I've ever done. I did not have a contingency plan. I did not have a plan as to what I'm going to do if this one fails. If this one fails, I had no idea. It scared me as to what am I going to do. And it's one of the area that it's situated in. It's a design district. I'm literally placed next to, I don't know if you guys know about the Indian brands like Sabyasachi, even Gaurav Gupta. We have some of the designers who have really made it in life, right? Like they're huge. And to really be situated in that area is, I mean, the rates and the real estate, everything was pretty threatening. And you know what? I think I work best under pressure. And just the fact that I had to make sure that I make complete use of the money that I'm borrowing and putting into it just made me do everything, even the facade. So I have designed the entire space myself, and I couldn't afford an interior designer at all. Zero. Like I had to do it by myself. And why was it so loud? And like even the entrance, I was just like, man, I don't care if people don't enter my shop, but whoever is passing by should at least look twice. Because this is my banner moment, right? Where I get a space where people do come and there's a lot of visibility. I made sure I'm well placed. I literally took no chances when it comes to making mistakes while setting up the store. I was just like, it has to work. It just has to work. And although it was pretty scary, and I think I'm going to follow the same thing if I'm coming to your country too, which I really want to. I have a great clientele in the US. So it's going to be the same idea. It's still going to be threatening, but that's how I'm going to approach it.
You kind of answered my question because you were saying, Bhavya, that everyone was like, can I see these in person? Can I touch this? But I do feel like you have a pretty global audience. So how do you manage making almost filling that gap for people who can't visit the store?
Okay, as a consumer, can I jump in here?
Yeah, please.
I believe you use this technology on your website called Track 8, which allows people to try on the glasses. And the software was strong. Like I actually felt like I could see what it looked like when I bought it. And I think that is like really great for accessories because it's like harder with clothes with our bodies, right? But it just brought confidence to my online purchase in a way that I would not, it's just so much harder to buy that. So as a consumer, that's my experience.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the try and buy because this was something that was purely set up by my team. I think I have the best and the most motivating partners on my team because even this software, right, it was not something that we could afford. It was just something that we built because right after the collection was released, everyone was just like, man, I don't know how this would look on my face. I don't know about the size and whatnot. And we were like, okay, fine. This is the only way we can do this. We need to get this software. And that's what we did. But all said and done, I do believe retail stores have really changed my life. And I think it's the way to go. No matter how much I believe in online presence, I think online presence in itself allows you to be a global brand because of the kind of audience that you can reach. But when you have products like this, Retail is a game changer. And I truly believe just having multiple stores across the globe is the way to go. And that's what I'm aiming at.
And can you say more? How has retail changed your life? How's year one gone?
See, the thing about retail is, at least for me, a lot of people, when you see the brand online, right, people will always feel like, oh, there are only certain segment of people that can wear this. Because, I mean, that's what people say, that it's pretty loud, and like there is a certain genre of people that find it appealing. Certain genre of people who are reserved find it a little too much. They never feel like, oh, that's something that I could wear. But with retail, just a regular person just walks into your store and finds the most interesting piece, and they put it on and they're like, man, I can wear this. I never thought I could do this when I saw your brand online. Because at the end of the day, when you're a very concept oriented brand, right? Straight from the idea, even your photo shoot also emulates that idea and like brings that out. But you're never thinking about a global audience. There's a reason why online brands always have white background images. It makes sense because people do find it more appealing, or like the product takes charge over the photographs rather than the photographs taking charge over the product. But with our brand, it's definitely a good mix of both. So it's a little confusing for them to be like, I don't know if that's for me. But in retail, you convert a very regular person and make them yours. So it's changed the game for me, and I absolutely love having retail spaces. And also, it's a space where people can come and experience your brand. So even when it comes to just experimenting, if you have an idea, first put it out in the store, see how people are reacting to it. It's a great tool to have when you're working as a business.
I like that. So is your ideal customer like a person that does this, they like this, or is it a mindset? Because what you just described is like, I think a lot of brands will be like, these are the people we sell to. What you just described is like, this could actually be for anyone as long as they can see themselves in it, which is, I think, very different from what we just normally hear.
That's 100% true. I feel like you can become a brand. I wouldn't say not for everybody, but for most of them, only by just the way you sell. And the more genres you experiment with. Now, if I put the same collection that I've put out, say Glare Killers, right? With a completely different concept, completely different set of people wearing it, it will hit a different set of target audience. It's very interesting. So what happens at the store is you're not setting a target audience. People are just curious. They want to just come in and see what it's about, because the facade does that for me. And they come in and they just see and they just try it on and they're like, oh, wow, okay. So I like that. I really like that idea and I feel like it's worked out well for me. So I absolutely, hands down, love retail.
I love that. And I love what you said about like people wearing this across generations. Like you're like the older women will come in and add it to their prescription. So we did want to ask like how you pull this off. It feels like every time you come out with something, it's so strongly tied to your brand. Like it's clearly you, but it also feels like you are differentiating yourself from the things you've created in the past. Like you're growing right before our eyes. So like how do you keep pushing with each collection and building on your past selves while staying like still in the range of something that's very recognizably like Bhavya?
Honestly, I feel like I just stay true and it just happens. Everything else just follows. Like I said, organically, whatever I put out and how my brand grows is really how I am growing. It's a personal growth for me, it's a personal learning for me, and the brand reflects that through and through. As and when that happens, for me, it's also very fascinating to kind of see the kind of audience that it can reach and how audience also kind of find it very fun to interact with the brand. Because at some point in their life, even say an older woman just wants to be fun and like experimental, you have the right product with you. And even if a young person just wants to be cool and like design centric and conceptual and wants to be out of the box, we have something for them. So I feel like it just works out well, but I also feel like just being true and authentic through and through just works out well, because that's what this time lacks, because we have so much information. Everybody has so much access to so many new ideas and ways of like execution and everything, that authenticity is truly to be celebrated, and it is going to always be celebrated, because that's something that I hope no software can emulate and like do things. So I think that's what stays true to human power. So that works at the end of the day.
When I hear you saying this, authenticity is to be celebrated. Yes, yes, yes. But from a business perspective, I think the mind shift and the dots that I'm connecting here is about, authenticity is what's going to drive the bottom line. And hearing you talk this whole time about your story and your narrative, and your brand narrative is as strong as a snake grip, and your facade with the serpent is what attracts customers and then brings them in. And on today's world, we have all these paid ads online. And I think a lot of brands, they're tight on budget and they want to do only performance driving campaigns that just drive people to click and purchase. But they're not considering what their prospecting or driving awareness of their brand looks like. What is your serpent with an open mouth that people are going to be like, oh, what's that about? And then bring them in. And so when we're thinking about this consumer journey and narrative, I love that your physical retail experience literally gives almost that whole front to back through the conversion. And, as brands are struggling with like limited budget and driving conversions, and they're also being told to create a lifestyle brand, I think you're showing how that comes together and the strength that provides for brands to really consider and think of how that could work for them and what that means for their brand.
Yeah, I'm glad that this is what my journey is kind of having an impact, and I'm really glad that exactly what I'd envisioned is kind of coming to life. And I'm truly blessed, honestly, because sometimes they always say everybody works hard. Only few of them can bear the fruits of their labor. And I'm glad and I'm truly blessed that I'm able to bear the fruits of my labor.
What a beautiful way to end.
And thank you for sharing with us so we get to learn, and our listeners, all of you out there, get to hear your story.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for making me part of this podcast and letting people get to know a little more about me. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye, Bhavya.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Lola here. Thanks for listening. Style as Identity is part of the Majority Group, which is focused on spotlighting and supporting the brands that make us feel seen. In addition to this podcast, we offer business and strategy advice to brands, have an investment arm, and more. Basically, we want to see you win and do what we can to make it happen. For more info on us, head to themajoritygroup.com. Love ya.